In today's video, I wanted to talk about what might be a common question for people just starting to learn about Bitcoin, which is, so all these proponents of Bitcoin, they're always talking about how Bitcoin is scarce, it has a finite supply, and that's what makes it valuable. So why can't someone just create more Bitcoin, right? Why can't I just create new Bitcoin and give it to you, right? What actually makes it scarce? Like, why can't someone just counterfeit a Bitcoin and increase the supply? Well, the answer comes in, and I think the more you start to learn about and increase your understanding of Bitcoin, the more you shift your understanding from Bitcoin as like some kind, like a token, like a coin that you're trying to buy, and in hopes that that coin is going to go up in value in the future. You'll shift your understanding from that to understanding Bitcoin as a financial network, right? It's a network that millions or tens, hundreds of thousands of people participate in this financial network and make it secure. So to spend a Bitcoin, right, I have to broadcast my transaction to nodes in the network. And these nodes in the network, which are distributed, located all over the world, people running the Bitcoin software, these nodes have to validate my transaction, right? And to run a node, basically what you're doing is you're running a copy of the Bitcoin software on your own computer. So anyone can run a node as long as you have a computer with some memory space. You can participate in the Bitcoin network by running a node and validating transactions. And to validate transactions, you download a copy of the blockchain. And that blockchain contains every transaction that's ever occurred in Bitcoin history, which is since 2009 when Bitcoin started. So if someone broadcasts a transaction to me, they say, right, I want to send this Bitcoin to person 2, then they would broadcast their transaction. I would check that Bitcoin against the blockchain, against the history of the transactions, and I can track exactly, okay, this Bitcoin went from here to here to here to here, and now this person is trying to send it here. So if I see that this is not a valid transaction because this person doesn't actually have access to this, or this isn't a real Bitcoin that there's any recorded history of, I will reject that transaction immediately. So if I see this as fraudulent, if I see that someone's trying to double spend the same Bitcoin that they already spent, then it's not going to get approved, and that transaction is not going to get broadcast to the rest of the network to then continue to validate that transaction, and then for a miner to include that transaction in a block. And so if a transaction does go through, if it's a valid transaction, the transaction fee was paid, and this is a trustworthy transaction, then that node will then broadcast that transaction to the rest of the nodes in the network. That transaction will get broadcast to a miner, and the miner will then include that new transaction in a block. And then once that new block with all these new transactions that are all approved and vetted by the rest of the network, that block will be mined. Every 10 minutes, a new block is mined. And when that new block is mined, it will be added to the next block of the blockchain. And then that block is etched in history, and those transactions live forever in the Bitcoin blockchain. So all the nodes in the network will then download the updated version of the blockchain with those new transactions included. And so that's how the process works, right? So the more you try to understand, the more you realize Bitcoin is a financial network. And it's a financial network that's governed by rules that the participants in the network agree upon those rules, whereas our current financial system is a financial system governed by rulers, right? It's governed by central bankers who control the issuance and the supply of the money. And they can just increase the supply of the money. They have the power to do that. But to have the power to do that on the Bitcoin network, you would have to get everyone to agree upon running that new version of the software that increases the supply of Bitcoin, which, newsflash, no one's going to agree to that new version of the software, because that's not beneficial for anyone, right? If you increase the supply of Bitcoin, then my Bitcoin is less valuable because the supply is more abundant. And then you might be asking as a follow-up question, well, if it's not abundant, if it's finite, then there won't be enough for everyone, right? Then you can't keep an economy running. But the fact is that Bitcoin is infinitely divisible. So the max supply of Bitcoin is 21 million coins, but that's somewhat of an arbitrary number, right? Because the supply could just be 1 Bitcoin, but we could divide that Bitcoin into a quadrillion pieces, or 10 quadrillion. It's infinitely divisible because it's just numbers and math. So there's never actually a shortage of Bitcoin. That was my brief explanation of why someone can't just create more Bitcoin, why the supply is actually finite. But yeah, if you have any additional questions, if there's something I missed, some details I got wrong, I'm happy to discuss those. Please let me know if I missed anything. I think the beautiful part about this and about learning about any topic in general is that for me, like, I feel like I'm just barely scratching the surface of like understanding this myself. Like, it's such a complex and like intricate system. Like, it's still simple enough that like I can understand why it's important, why I want to educate myself and educate others about this. But I still recognize that there's so much to learn. But I think that's like how you truly increase your understanding of something. I think if you think like, I fully understand this thing, like, there's nothing left to learn, and you won't continue to learn and expand your knowledge and open your mind to new possibilities and things you might have missed, things you may have overlooked. So yeah, I think just education is important. So like, please educate me. Like, if there's something like I could explain better, if there's something like a detail I'm missing, like, I would love to hear that and discuss, because I think that's how we truly expand education. I think education is truly just questioning things and diving deeper into understanding everything. I truly just think Bitcoin is incredibly important for us right now, and education is the most important thing, because if we all understand this thing, we'll truly make the world a better, more fair, more democratized, and more decentralized place, which is truly what we need right now. And I think just not enough people are talking about monetary debasement as an issue. I don't think we can discuss things like wealth inequality, things like that, without addressing the actual fact, which is that the money is broken, right? The money is backed by nothing. The money doesn't work for anyone, especially the workers, the people saving for the future in dollars. Those people are really suffering right now, and Bitcoin is the most important, in my opinion, the most important invention of our generation, maybe even of this century, this millennium, because of the issue of monetary debasement. So if you appreciate this content, just leave a like, comment, subscribe. Those help out the channel a ton. And as always, together, let's work, save, and build a brighter future with Bitcoin. See you in the next video.